behind the captain, and by the time we reached the island, I had soaked through my jeans with sweat. I looked like a woman who wet her pants. Swamp ass, people. I knew I should have worn my linen pants, but when I get half sleep on flights, I also pop half boners, and jeans mitigate the visual. Would you wear linen pants to a strip joint? Exactly. How are you supposed to walk back through the crowd from the champagne room? You can't. With the sun on our left side for an hour and 45-minute ocean trek along the reef, I got a stiff neck from turning to face it head on so I wouldn't look like Two-Face with a profile sunburn. I needed an even red. Stupid Anglo jeans. We docked and met up with Dan, who shuttled us to our hotel and headed back to the truck stop, which was our venue on San Pedro. We met Haley at the Drift Inn and got the codes to the gate and the door to the alligator room, which is where Lewis and I would be crashing. We dropped our stuff, popped some pills that we got from the pharmacy, got changed, and Ben and Matt picked us up in their golf cart because that's how everyone gets around the island, and we headed to the venue in the sweltering heat. For some reason, Ben and Matt arrived the day before, even though I put the fucking thing together, but they were in another hotel, already had a cart, and kind of knew the lay of the land. When we got to the show, locals were happily greeting their old friends Ben and Matt because those two maniacs had tooled around the island and schmoozed with a bunch of people. Ben even got his hair braided into cornrows by a local. See, there's always a hustle going on. For instance, when Lewis and I were waiting for the water taxi run, a 16-year-old kid approached our table at a restaurant down the block from the water taxi dock, and the charismatic teen earned our trust in minutes. This trust translated into us writing down all the fun things we wanted to buy from the pharmacy and him getting them for us while we enjoyed some island food and ice-cold local beer. What's more, the restaurant was recommended to us by the security chief at the water taxi, who flashed his gun, which I think was meant to make us feel safe. Made us feel like we better patronize that fucking restaurant is what it did. Pretty sure he gets a percentage of the passengers he sends there. When we hit the beach, a girl sold us beads and ironwood carvings because we just couldn't say no. At first when we declined, she said it was happy hour for you, and the carvings were now buy one, get one, and we got her to drop the price significantly, which was nice because the exchange rate is 2-to-1 favoring the US dollar. Having the kids be the salespeople is definitely the move, because minutes later it is easy to shoo off the snaggle-toothed old man with 4-foot gray dreads who tried to sell us trinkets. When we said thanks but no thanks, he pivoted and offered to take us to some beautiful girls. There was one way for us to get killed. Belize is gorgeous, but you could sense a human trafficking killy vibe if you got off the beaten tourist path. Are you sure, boys? They like to give the golden showers, man. It's like holy water. The other comics laughed, but I couldn't. I couldn't because part of me wished I wasn't too scared to investigate this specifically for the podcast, but I decided to play it safe. So I'm sorry, listeners. That could have been a great story, or it could have been the end of the podcast, and my life. And, if you die over a golden shower, people are going to laugh when they visit the casket at the funeral. Let's be honest. Anyways, we're at the truck stop, and Dan and Kim are giving the pre-shift plan. Tables are being moved and set, all socially distanced. Still have to mask up in Belize. I found out why when we left. In order to leave, you have to spend $75 US on a rapid COVID test at the airport. So, why not keep lockdown going when you can nick every tourist for more than it costs for a day pass at Disney World? Always a hustle. The sun dropped down over the water on which the truck stop was nestled. It's a 2-bar, 5-shipping-container food truck restaurant in the Round Joint. There's a swimming pool, a movie screen, and a large pavilion with a stage, which is where we would be selling our shtick to the tourists and locals alike, who are all English-speaking expats. Everyone speaks English there, and the locals do so with a kind of Jamaican accent, so if you go, don't worry about brushing up on your Spanish. We took some pictures before the show, and I'll share them on social media. But another significant event before the show started was that I scored 5.5 grams of Belizean Blizz, so I knew me and the boys would be good to go. The place filled in, and it was showtime. I got on stage first. Comics often call this jumping on the grenade, and as the host, it was my job. It's called that because it's the toughest spot. The audience is just getting there. They don't know how to react yet. They're only halfway through their first round of drinks, and the whole situation is awkward as fuck. I mean, I'm a stranger with a microphone telling jokes that really say, please like me. I didn't eat shit, but it wasn't the best audience response I'd ever gotten. TBH. There was an area to the left of the stage where tables were situated off the pavilion, and those people were losing their minds, but they were seated in the dark. The socially distanced, thinly spread tables in the light kind of held back and nervously looked around and started laughing off the left side of the audience's cues. I wrapped it up after 20 minutes and brought Lewis up. He knocked down the remaining pins and really set it up for Ben, who just kept bowling fucking strikes. It was the best set I've seen him do. It was really a sight to behold. Then Matt, who is like the Muppets drummer Animal of stand-up comedy, delivered the finish him fatality move. Total party vibes. After the show, everyone in the audience came up to us and praised and thanked us because they haven't had live entertainment of any kind since the COVID shit started. We were in our glory. And I couldn't have been happier with the HUD of individual bathrooms at the joint. Super conducive to powdering one's nose. We were getting tanked and the 11 p.m. curfew started sneaking up on us. Before we knew it, it was time to get back in the golf carts and swerve our way to the hotel. We said our goodbyes, made plans for the next day, and started our engines. It was then Lewis and I had the unfortunate realization that our cart's headlights were on the fritz. We obviously had no way of knowing this during the day, and it wasn't like we could call Uber. So we decided as a team the responsible drunk driving would be left to Lewis, and we'd tailgate Ben and Matt using their lights in concert with my phone's flashlight as our guidance system. This worked beautifully for a mile or so. Then as we crested a steep bridge crossing an inlet, 5 cops on dirt bikes peeked on the opposite lane and yelled at us to pull over. Fuck. Here we go, I thought. It's like Colombia all over again. They're going to search me, I'll have to bribe them, or I'll end up in prison. Lewis parked and we got out of the vehicle. This is where Lewis's Spanish fluency came in handy, kind of. As I weighed the options of Belizean prison and 5.5 grams, Lewis ascertained that our ticket for driving without lights was going to be $100 US, the same it cost to bribe a machine gun-toting cop in Medellin. What then followed was me hearing Lewis tell the cops we just did a show and that we were comedians. You know, the last thing the local police wanted to hear is they expressly warned all the island clubs not to host any events due to COVID. Actually, I thought that was the last thing they wanted to hear. Lewis, as I mentioned, is desperate for approval for his comedic stylings at all times. If you find yourself in casual conversation with him, you'll find him weaving in his jokes. Anyways, the Spanish-speaking cops were no exception. I heard him say chistes, and I knew his joke was coming. Fuck. This was so not the time. He had 2 cops as audience, 2 were hovering around me, and 1 was going over our cart with a flashlight. Ben and Matt never stopped, rightly so, and they were long gone. My jaw clenched, and I subconsciously wrapped my hand around the fat baggie in my pocket like I was Bilbo Baggins checking for the ring. Lewis began his joke. I looked for a place to toss the blow. But in my mind, I couldn't let myself throw out that much money and fun. Fuck, what should I do? And I was able to translate Lewis's joke, and I'll paraphrase. It went something like this. Remember, he's telling this to a Latin American police patrol. You ever hang out with your Mexican friend who's always wearing sunglasses, then one day he finally takes them off, and you're like, holy shit, you're Chinese? I pulled my hand halfway out of my pocket, ready to throw the blow. The 2 cops stared at him in silence. Oh, fuck. We're fucked. Then they died laughing. That fucking idiotic choice of a joke actually landed. I couldn't believe it. The other cops around me and the cart got curious about what was so goddamn funny and walked over to the other guys and got it repeated for themselves. And now they were laughing. Holy fucking shit. We were going to be okay. They wrote us a ticket for $100 US. I immediately got out my wallet, but they told us we had to go to the Ministry of Transportation within 14 business days to pay it. Well, here's the thing. Couple of things, actually. We weren't going to be around, so 1, fuck that. And 2, they wrote it down. Written. Like no computer, no scan, nothing. So if they were going to get Dan later on for an unpaid ticket for no headlights on the off chance he got pulled over for an unrelated moving violation, it would be because someone at the station had memorized the fucking post-it note with the license plate on it. So we gave our apologies, our thank yous, met the guys further up the road and got back to the hotel. We took the traffic ticket, cut it up, rolled it up, and snorted lines through it until curfew ended at 4 a.m. 4 tuned-up comics drinking in a sweltering room telling jokes, having a pun contest, and spitballing movie ideas for 5 hours was the most fun I'd had in years, and was 100% worth the idea of Dan getting pinched for an outstanding ticket sometime in the near future. Just kidding. We told him. He didn't give a flying fuck either. Ah, the third world. Maybe next time I'll aim for a second world gig. Hey, gotta start at the bottom and work your way up. Well, it's last call, so let me give you a tip. First of all, stay tuned for the outtakes. I definitely fucked up a lot on this one. And real talk. If I close at 11 and it's 10:57, don't fucking come in. Just don't. Do you really need the drink that bad? You don't. Go home. Speaking of which, folks, it's been a blast. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And a call to my fellow booze slingers. Send in your stories to cocktailsandwastednights@gmail.com. You can remain anonymous if you'd like. Thanks for listening, subscribing, downloading, and spreading the word. Don't be afraid to give me a good review, even if you're lying. And check out my video on YouTube, Just Close It. I promise you'll laugh. Also, I have a little site on Patreon. If you want to support the show, go visit that. I don't have any extra shit there, but trust me, if you want to give me money, I will accept the tips. We'll see you next time on Behind Bars, Cocktails, and Wasted Nights. Cheers! While on vacation of the warmer climes, rich people who walked on their tab, I'd come in to sling Coors Lights and serve $21 cheeseburgers, and 1 hour in, I just learned I'd be performing in a comedy lineup at a sold-out Belly Up. The comic was dying, and judging by the football, we had corporate buyout. I don't get a chance to perform all that much unless I take a night off. Little did these people know, I did the Comedy Store on a semi-regular basis. Then I thought I could... I ordered some linen... Oh my fucking God. This fact will play a... For instance, when Lou... At first when we declined... Because minutes later, it was easy to shoo off the snaggle-toothed old man with 4 foot Tables were being moved and set. Social distancing spaces all between... Now the comic was actually laughing, because he knew he'd just handed the mic to another comedian, and even he had to acknowledge that in and of itself was hilarious. Fuck that. The sun dropped down over the water on which the truck stop was... Lewis began his joke. I looked for a place... Lewis began his joke. I looked for a Oh my God.